or you don't belong in this line, sweetie. Economy is back there." That's exactly what the gate agent told Maya, laughing in her face while ripping up her boarding pass. She thought she was just kicking a broke college student out of the priority lane. She had no idea she was actually humiliating the daughter of the man who had just bought the entire airline that morning. What happens next isn't just justice. It's a masterclass in corporate warfare. You think you know how this ends? Trust me, you are not ready for the twist in Part 6. Buckle up. The air conditioning inside Terminal 4 at JFK was humming that specific, low-frequency drone that usually induces a headache by the second hour. For Maya Winslow, it was just white noise. She adjusted the strap of her canvas tote bag, a battered, nondescript thing she'd picked up at a flea market in Berlin, and pulled the sleeves of her oversized grey hoodie down over her knuckles. To the untrained eye, Maya looked like a driftless Gen Z traveler, perhaps returning home from a gap-year hostel crawl. Her sweatpants were baggy, her hair was pulled back in a messy, frizzy bun, and she wore absolutely no makeup. There were dark circles under her eyes, the result of a grueling finals week at Wharton and a red-eye flight from London that had connected through to New York. She was exhausted. She just wanted to get home to Chicago. She walked toward Gate B32, clutching her phone. The screen displayed a digital boarding pass, Flight 492 to ORD, Seat 1A, Group 1. The gate area was a chaotic sea of humanity. A delayed flight to Miami had spilled over into the Chicago waiting area, creating a claustrophobic crush of rolling suitcases and agitated passengers. But the priority lane, the red-carpeted stretch reserved for first class and Diamond Medallion members, was empty. Maya stepped up to the podium. Behind the desk stood a woman whose name tag read Beatrice. Beatrice was a woman who wore her authority like a weapon. She had stiff, heavily sprayed blonde hair that didn't move when she turned her head, and her uniform was pressed with military precision. She was currently typing furiously on her computer, ignoring the line of people forming. Maya waited politely. 10 seconds. 20. Beatrice didn't look up. She took a sip from a Starbucks cup, her long, manicured nails clicking against the plastic lid. "Excuse me," Maya said softly. Beatrice held up a single finger without lifting her eyes, the just-a-minute finger. Maya sighed, shifting her weight. Behind her, a man in a sharp navy suit approached the priority lane. He was on his phone, barking about stock options. He didn't wait. He walked right up beside Maya, practically shouldering her out of the way, and slapped his passport on the counter. "I need to know if the upgrade cleared," the man demanded, his voice booming. Beatrice's head snapped up. Her expression transformed instantly from icy indifference to a sugary customer service smile. "Good morning, sir. Let me check that for you immediately," she chirped. She took his passport, ignoring Maya completely. Maya frowned. "I was next," she said, her voice slightly firmer. Beatrice glanced at Maya briefly, her eyes raking over the grey hoodie and the canvas bag. The look lasted less than a second, but it communicated everything. It was a look of assessment and dismissal. "Sir, you are all set. Seat 3B. Enjoy the flight," Beatrice said, handing the passport back to the man. "Thanks, darling," the man grunted, pushing past Maya to board. Maya stepped forward again, placing her phone on the scanner. "Hi, I'm in Seat 1A. Beatrice finally turned her full attention to Maya. She didn't look at the screen. She looked at Maya's face, then down at her sneakers. "Miss," Beatrice said, her voice dropping to a patronizing condescension. "You're in the wrong line." "No, I'm not," Maya said. "I'm priority." "The boarding groups are listed on the screens," Beatrice said, pointing vaguely behind her without looking. "Group 1 is for first class and global services only. General boarding is Group 4. You need to wait until your group is called." "I am Group 1, Maya repeated. She held out her phone. Beatrice didn't look at the phone. She laughed, a short, sharp sound that felt like a slap. "Honey, look at the line. We have business travelers trying to board. Please step aside and wait for Group 4. Do not block the premier access. If you just scan the code, I don't need to scan the code to know you're holding up the line, Beatrice snapped, her sugary mask dissolving. This is for priority passengers, people who pay a premium. Now step back before I call security for disrupting the boarding process. Maya froze. The sheer audacity was stunning. It wasn't just rude, it was a targeted assumption based entirely on how she looked. Maya felt that familiar heat rising in her chest, the mix of embarrassment and righteous anger. She looked around. A few people in the general boarding area were watching, some snickering, others looking away uncomfortably. "My name is Maya Winslow," she said, steadying her voice. "I have a paid first-class ticket. You are refusing me service based on my appearance." Beatrice leaned over the counter. "I am refusing you service because you are being belligerent. Step aside." At that moment, a second gate agent appeared from the jet bridge door. He was younger, looking harried. "B, what's the hold-up? The captain wants to close doors in 10. "This passenger is refusing to wait for her zone," Beatrice said loudly, gesturing at Maya like she was a stray dog. "She's blocking the first-class passengers. I am a first-class passenger," Maya practically shouted, her patience snapping. "Let me see," the younger agent said, reaching for Maya's phone. Beatrice swatted his hand away. "No, Todd. We don't reward bad behavior. If she wants to board, she can wait until everyone else is on. She needs to learn some respect." Beatrice turned her cold eyes back to Maya. "Go sit down. Last warning." Maya looked at Beatrice. She looked at the scanner. Then she did something she rarely did. She pulled the card. Not a credit card. The other one. "I want to speak to your station manager," Maya said. "Now." Beatrice rolled her eyes so hard it looked painful. "Oh God, here we go. You want the manager?" "Fine." She grabbed the landline phone on the desk. "David? Yeah, I've got a disruptive at B32, refusing to clear the lane. Yeah, can you come down here and escort her out? Thanks." She slammed the phone down. "Mr. Halloway is coming, and he doesn't have patience for scammers. You might not be flying at all today." Maya didn't move. She didn't go sit down. She stood 2 feet to the side, crossed her arms, and waited. She pulled out her phone and sent a single text message. "To Dad JFK, Gate B32, Sovereign Air. They won't let me board. They think I'm lying about my ticket. It's happening again." The 3 dots appeared instantly. From Dad, "Don't move. Stay on the line. I'm making a call." David Halloway arrived 3 minutes later. He walked with the brisk, important stride of a middle manager who believed he was running the Pentagon rather than a terminal section. He was a man in his late 40s, wearing a tie that was slightly too wide and a suit that had seen better days. He looked stressed, sweating slightly at the temples. "What is it, Beatrice?" David asked, ignoring Maya. "Her." Beatrice pointed a manicured talon at Maya. "She's been blocking the priority lane for 5 minutes, claiming she's first class. I told her to wait for Group 4, and she started shouting at me, causing a scene." David turned to Maya. He didn't introduce himself. He just sighed, a long, weary exhalation of a man who hated his job. "Ma'am, you need to step away from the podium," David said. "She refused to scan my ticket," Maya said calmly. "I am in seat 1A. My name is Maya Winslow." "Ma'am, Beatrice has been doing this for 20 years, David said, his voice dripping with condescension. "If she says you aren't in the system for priority boarding, you aren't. Now I can either rebook you on a later flight for a fee, or I can call Port Authority Police to have you removed for trespassing." "You haven't even looked at my ticket," Maya said, thrusting her phone forward. David glanced at it. He saw the 1A. He paused. For a split second, doubt flickered in his eyes, but then he looked at Beatrice. Beatrice was glaring at him, silently daring him to undermine her. In the toxic culture of Sovereign Air's JFK ground crew, solidarity and cruelty was the only currency that mattered. If David sided with a passenger, especially one who looked like this, he'd lose the break room. "Screenshots can be faked," David said, crossing his arms. "We see it all the time. Kids editing boarding passes to get into the lounge or sneak upgrades. It's fraud, actually." Maya's jaw dropped. "You think I photoshopped a boarding pass?" "I think you can't afford a $4,000 ticket," Beatrice interjected, smirking. "Look at you." The insult hung in the air, gross and heavy. "Is that the official stance of Sovereign Air?" Maya asked, her voice turning icy cold. "That I can't afford it based on my hoodie? The official stance," David said, puffed up by his own authority, "is that we reserve the right to deny boarding to anyone displaying disorderly conduct, and arguing with staff is disorderly conduct." He reached for the radio on his belt. "I'm calling security. You're off the flight." "Wait," a voice came from the line. An older woman, dressed in a Chanel suit, stepped out of the priority queue. She had been watching the whole thing. "She's telling the truth. I saw her phone. It's the live app, not a screenshot. Just scan her damn ticket." "Ma'am, please stay out of this," David snapped at the woman. "This is a security matter now." "It's a power trip is what it is," the woman retorted. "That's it," David said. He keyed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Holloway at B32. I need 2 officers for an involuntary denial of boarding. Passenger is hostile." Maya didn't panic. She felt a vibration in her hand. Her phone was ringing. The caller ID didn't say Dad. It said Reginald Winslow. She answered it, putting it on speaker. "Maya." The voice was deep, baritone, and terrifyingly calm. It wasn't the voice of her father asking about dinner. It was the voice of the chairman. "I'm here, Dad," Maya said. "They just called the police. They are kicking me off the flight because they think I faked my ticket." David Holloway scoffed. "Calling Daddy? Really? That's not going to help you, sweetheart." "Who is speaking?" Reginald's voice boomed from the tiny speaker, cutting through the noise of the terminal. "This is David Holloway, station manager for Sovereign Air," David said, leaning into the phone with a mocking grin. "And you are?" "David Holloway." Reginald repeated the name, tasting it. "Good. I wanted to make sure I had the correct spelling for the termination paperwork. Mr. Holloway, my name is Reginald Winslow, CEO of Winslow Private Equity." David rolled his eyes. "Yeah, and I'm the King of England." "Listen, buddy, Winslow Private Equity," Reginald continued, his voice dropping an octave, "which, as of 8 a.m. this morning, finalized the acquisition of Sovereign Air's parent company, Global Transit Holdings. You might want to check your internal email, Mr. Holloway. There was a company-wide memo sent out 10 minutes ago." The color drained from David's face. It wasn't a gradual fade. It was instant. He went pale grey. Beatrice, however, wasn't as quick on the uptake. "Oh, save it!" she barked. "Another scammer on the phone. Hang up, David, and get the cops." "Check your email, David," Maya whispered. David's hands were shaking as he pulled out his company tablet. He tapped the screen with trembling fingers. He refreshed his inbox. From HR, Global Headquarters. Subject, urgent. Ownership change and leadership transition to all Sovereign Air staff. Please welcome our new ownership group, Winslow Private Equity. Effective immediately, all operations report to... David looked up. His eyes were wide, terrified saucers. He looked at Maya. He looked at the hoodie. Then he looked at the phone in her hand. Mr. Winslow?" David stammered. "Put me on with the gate agent," Reginald ordered. "The one who refused to scan the ticket." David swallowed hard. He held the phone out to Beatrice. "B, take it." "Why?" Beatrice demanded. "Just take it," David hissed, his voice cracking. Beatrice took the phone, looking annoyed. "Hello? Look, I don't know who you think you are, but—" "Beatrice Geller," Reginald said. "Employee ID 49221. Is that correct?" Beatrice froze. "How did you—" "I have your personnel file open in front of me," Reginald said. "It seems you have 12 prior complaints for rudeness and discrimination in the last 2 years, yet you're still employed. Management seems to have protected you. That ends today." "I was just following protocol," Beatrice stammered, her voice suddenly small. "No," Reginald said. Protocol is scanning a ticket. What you did was profiling. Now here is what is going to happen. You are going to apologize to my daughter. Then you're going to scan her ticket. And then you are going to pack your personal belongings, hand your badge to Mr. Holloway, and leave the airport. You are fired, Miss Geller, for cause. Effective immediately." Beatrice dropped the phone. It clattered onto the desk. The entire gate area was silent. The man in the navy suit who had cut in line earlier was staring, mouth open. The lady in Chanel was smirking. Beatrice looked at Maya. Her lip quivered. The power dynamic had shifted so violently she had whiplash. Beatrice started. "Apologize," David Holloway whispered urgently. "Do it, B." "I'm sorry," Beatrice mumbled, not looking at Maya. "I didn't hear you," Maya said softly. "I'm sorry," Beatrice cried out, tears of humiliation springing to her eyes. "Scan the ticket," Maya said. Beatrice, hands shaking uncontrollably, picked up the scanner. Maya tapped her phone. "Beep, seat 1A. Welcome aboard, Miss Winslow." "Thank you," Maya said. She took her phone back. "Dad, I'm boarding." "Not yet, Maya," Reginald said. "Hand the phone back to Mr. Holloway. I'm not done with him." David Holloway took the phone from Maya, as if it were a live grenade. His hands were slick with sweat, and he nearly dropped the device before pressing it to his ear. The silence on the other end was heavier than a scream. Mr. Winslow," David stammered, his voice cracking like a teenager's. "Mr. Holloway," Reginald Winslow's voice was dangerously low. "I am looking at the shift log for gate B32. It appears you are the station manager on duty. Is that correct?" "Yes, sir. I just arrived." "I didn't know." "You didn't know what?" Reginald cut him off. "You didn't know that my daughter was a human being, or you didn't know that she had the power to end your career." David swallowed hard. He looked around the gate area. Passengers were now openly filming the interaction. The lady in the Chanel suit was leaning against a pillar, watching with grim satisfaction. Beatrice was sobbing quietly into her hands, her mascara running down her cheeks. "Sir, please," David pleaded, lowering his voice. "It was a misunderstanding. We have strict protocols about boarding priority to protect our premium passengers. Beatrice is gone," Reginald said. "And you just defended her. You threatened to call the police on a paying customer because she didn't fit your profile of what wealth looks like. You threatened to have my daughter arrested for standing in line." I was just trying to de-escalate," David lied. "By threatening arrest. That is not de-escalation, Mr. Holloway. That is intimidation, and it speaks to a systemic rot in your station." Reginald paused. The silence stretched for 5 agonizing seconds. "Who is the gate agent next to Beatrice? The young man?" David looked at Todd, who was standing frozen against the jet bridge door, trying to make himself invisible. "That's Todd Miller." "Put him on." David handed the phone to Todd. Todd looked terrified. "Hello?" "Mr. Miller," Reginald said. "I heard you try to intervene. You asked to see the ticket. Beatrice stopped you. Is that right?" "Yes, sir," Todd squeaked. "Did Mr. Holloway intervene to help you, or did he side with Beatrice immediately?" Todd looked at David. David was staring at him, eyes wide, silently begging for cover. Todd looked at Beatrice, weeping over her ruined career. Then he looked at Maya, who was standing there with dignity despite everything. "He sided with Beatrice, sir," Todd said clearly. "He didn't even look at the ticket until you called." David closed his eyes. He knew it was over. "Thank you, Todd," Reginald said. "Give the phone back to Mr. Holloway." David took the phone back. He felt numb. "Mr. Holloway," Reginald said, "you are relieved of command effective immediately. You will hand your badge and your radio to Mr. Miller. He is now the acting station manager for the remainder of the shift until my transition team arrives in an hour." You can't just fire me over the phone," David protested weakly. "I have a union rep. I have rights." "You violated federal regulations by denying boarding to a confirmed passenger without cause," Reginald said. "You also violated Sovereign Air's Code of Conduct, Section 4, Paragraph 2, discrimination and harassment, and you did it on a recorded line. I'm not just firing you, David. I'm ensuring you are ineligible for rehire at any airline that Sovereign owns or partners with. That includes most of them. Hand the badge to Todd. Now." David Halloway, a man who had terrorized junior staff and belittled economy passengers for a decade, unclipped his badge with trembling fingers. He handed it to Todd. He unclipped his radio and set it on the counter. "Get out of my terminal," Reginald said. David turned and walked away, head down, disappearing into the crowd of the very people he used to look down on. Beatrice was still crying. "What about me?" she wailed. "I have a pension." "Security will escort you to the exit, miss." "Geller," Todd said, his voice surprisingly steady as he assumed his new authority. He picked up the radio. "Dispatch, we have a terminated employee at Gate B32 requiring escort." Reginald spoke to Maya again. "Maya, are you still there?" "I'm here, Dad." "Board the plane. I'm having the flight manifest updated. You're not just Seat 1A anymore. I want you to assess the cabin crew. If this rot is on the ground, I need to know if it's in the air, too." "On it," Maya said. She took her phone back, nodded to Todd, and walked down the jet bridge. The lady in Chanel applauded as she walked past the desk. "Go get 'em, honey," she said. The first-class cabin of Flight 492 was a sanctuary of beige leather and hushed tones. Maya stepped onto the plane, her heart still pounding from the confrontation. She just wanted to sit down, put on her noise-cancelling headphones, and sleep. But the universe, and Sovereign Air, wasn't done with her yet. A flight attendant named Valerie was standing at the door. She was cut from the same cloth as Beatrice. Impeccable uniform, frozen smile, and eyes that scanned every passenger for status and worth. Valerie looked at Maya's hoodie. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "Boarding pass?" Valerie asked, blocking the aisle. Maya held up her phone. 1A. Valerie looked at the phone, then at Maya. "Are you sure, sweetie? 1A is right here." She pointed to the bulkhead seat. "Usually students are back in row 30. Maya took a deep breath. "I'm sure. I just scanned in." "Let me just check my list," Valerie said, pulling out a paper manifest. She ran her finger down the list. Winslow. She stopped. Her finger hovered over the name. Winslow, Maya, VIP. Valerie frowned. Must be an upgrade using miles, she muttered to herself, loud enough for Maya to hear. "Well, go ahead, but please try to stow your bag quickly. We need the overhead bin space for the full-fare passengers." Maya didn't say anything. She just walked to seat 1A and put her canvas tote in the bin. As she settled into the wide leather seat, the man in the navy suit from the gate, the one who had cut her off, boarded. He saw Maya in 1A and stopped dead in his tracks. "You've got to be kidding me," the man groaned. He looked at Valerie. "Miss, there must be a mistake. This girl is in my seat." Valerie hurried over. "Let me check, mister. Sterling? James Sterling. I'm a platinum member. I specifically requested the bulkhead. Mr. Sterling, you are in 3B, Valerie soothed. "I see it right here. But I want 1A, Sterling whined. "And she's obviously—" "Look, can't you just move her? She probably doesn't even know the difference. Give her a free drink voucher and put her in the back. I have work to do." Maya looked out the window, ignoring them. She was testing Valerie. Would she protect the passenger with the ticket, or the passenger with the entitlement? Valerie leaned in toward Maya. "Excuse me, Miss Winslow?" Maya turned. "Yes?" "Mr. Sterling here is a very frequent flyer with us," Valerie said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "And he really needs the extra leg room to work. Would you mind switching seats with him? He's in 3B. It's still first class, just further back." "I would mind," Maya said simply. "I booked this seat." "Come on," Sterling scoffed. "I'll give you $50. Buy yourself some new sweatpants." The insult was so sharp, so unnecessary. Valerie let out a small, conspiratorial giggle. "Sir, please," she said playfully to Sterling, then turned back to Maya, her face hardening. "Look, miss, it would really help the crew if you cooperated. We want everyone to be happy." "I am happy in seat 1A, Maya said, "and if you continue to harass me about my seat, I will file a report." Valerie straightened up, her eyes flashing. "There is no need for attitude. I was just asking a favor. Fine, stay there." She turned to Sterling. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Sterling. I'll make sure you get extra attention during the flight. Champagne before takeoff?" "Unbelievable," Sterling grumbled, shoving his bag into the bin above Maya's head, nearly hitting her. He stomped back to row 3. Maya pulled out her phone. She didn't text her dad this time. She opened the Sovereign Air app and found the in-flight feedback section. She began to type. "Flight attendant Valerie. Gate interaction, dismissive. Seat dispute, attempted to coerce passenger to move for frequent flyer. Permitted other passenger to insult me. Failed to intervene." She saved the draft. She wasn't going to send it yet. She wanted to see how the rest of the flight went. 10 minutes later, boarding was complete. The captain's voice came over the intercom. "Good morning, folks. This is Captain Reynolds. We're just waiting on some final paperwork from the ground before we push back. We've had a bit of a staffing change at the gate, so bear with us." Maya smiled slightly. Staffing change. That was one way to put it. Valerie was moving through the cabin, taking drink orders. She skipped Maya. She went straight to row 2, then row 3, to fawn over Mr. Sterling. "Mr. Sterling, here is your champagne, and I brought you some warm nuts. Is there anything else I can get you?" "Yeah," Sterling said loudly. "Tell me how a teenager gets the best seat on the plane while I'm stuck back here." "I know," Valerie whispered loudly. "System glitch, maybe, or an employee non-rev. They always act like they own the place." Maya pressed the call button. Ding. Valerie ignored it. She continued chatting with Sterling. Maya pressed it again. Ding. Valerie sighed, rolled her eyes at Sterling, and walked over to Maya. "Yes, what is it?" "I'd like a water, please," Maya said. "And you skipped me during the drink service." "I didn't skip you," Valerie lied. "I was getting to you. We do things in order of priority." "Row 1 is before row 3, Maya pointed out. "Not always," Valerie snapped. "Water." "Fine." She marched to the galley and returned with a plastic cup of tap water. No ice, no napkin. She slammed it onto Maya's tray table. Water sloshed over the rim. "There," Valerie said. "Thank you," Maya said calmly. Suddenly the cockpit door opened. Captain Reynolds stepped out. He wasn't wearing his hat. He looked serious. He held a piece of paper in his hand, a telex printout from the cockpit printer. He walked into the first-class cabin. Valerie straightened her uniform. "Captain, is everything okay?" Captain Reynolds ignored her. He looked at the passengers. "Is there a Maya Winslow on board?" The cabin went silent. Mr. Sterling perked up in row 3. "Finally," he muttered. "They're kicking her off." Maya raised her hand. "I'm here." Captain Reynolds walked over to seat 1A. He didn't look angry. He looked respectful, almost reverent. "Miss Winslow," the captain said, "I just received a direct message from the new chairman of the board via ACARS. He wanted me to personally welcome you aboard and apologize for the delay at the gate." Valerie's face went white. The plastic cup she was holding for another passenger slipped from her hand and bounced on the carpet. "Thank you, Captain," Maya said. "I appreciate that." "He also mentioned," the captain continued, looking at the paper, "that I should check on your in-flight service. He is concerned that the transition in ownership might cause some turbulence with the crew standards." The captain turned slowly to look at Valerie. Valerie was trembling. She looked like she was going to faint. "Valerie," the captain said, his voice stern, "has Miss Winslow been taken care of?" I gave her water," Valerie whispered. "Water?" The captain looked at the champagne glass in Mr. Sterling's hand. "Miss Winslow is the daughter of Reginald Winslow, the man who signs your paycheck as of this morning." Mr. Sterling in row 3 choked on his warm nuts. He started coughing violently. Valerie looked at Maya. The realization hit her like a physical blow. The student, the non-Rev, the hoodie, it was all a test, and she had failed, spectacularly. "Miss Winslow," Valerie stammered, tears forming in her eyes. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Can I get you anything? Champagne? A meal? Anything?" Maya looked at Valerie. She didn't look angry. She just looked disappointed. "I don't want champagne, Valerie," Maya said. "I just wanted to be treated like a person, not a status level." "I know. I'm sorry. Please let me make it up to you." Maya looked at the captain. "Captain Reynolds, I don't want to cause a scene or delay the flight any further, but I don't feel comfortable with this flight attendant serving me." "Understood," Captain Reynolds said immediately. "Valerie, you are relieved of service duties for the remainder of this flight. Go sit in the jump seat in the rear galley. Do not speak to passengers. Do not speak to the crew. Just sit there." "But Captain," Valerie pleaded. "Now!" Reynolds barked. Valerie fled to the back of the plane, head down, sobbing. The captain turned to the other flight attendant, a woman named Sarah, who had been working in the galley, oblivious to the drama. "Sarah, you will handle first-class solo today. Please ensure Miss Winslow and all our passengers are treated with the highest respect." "Yes, Captain," Sarah said, wide-eyed. Captain Reynolds nodded to Maya. "My apologies again, Miss Winslow. We'll be in Chicago in 2 hours." He went back to the cockpit. The door clicked shut. The silence in first class was absolute. No one moved. Slowly, Mr. Sterling in row 3 leaned forward. He tapped Maya on the shoulder. Maya turned. Sterling started. His face was beet red. I didn't know." "You didn't know my dad was rich?" Maya asked, raising an eyebrow. "Or you didn't know I was a human being worthy of respect?" Sterling opened his mouth, but no words came out. He sat back in his seat and stared at the wall for the next 2 hours, terrified to even ask for a refill of his water. Maya put on her headphones. She closed her eyes. But the war wasn't over. They were just landing in Chicago. And in Chicago, the corporate headquarters of Sovereign Air was waiting. And her father was waiting. The purge had started at the gate. It had continued in the air. But the real reckoning was about to happen in the boardroom. The wheels of the Boeing 777 touched down on the tarmac at O'Hare International Airport with a violent screech of rubber, a sound that seemed to echo the tension inside the cabin. For the last 2 hours of the flight, the first-class cabin had been a mausoleum. No one spoke. Mr. James Sterling in seat 3B had sat in terrified silence, staring at the back of Maya's seat as if it were a loaded gun. Valerie, the disgraced flight attendant, had remained invisible in the rear galley, likely contemplating a future that involved LinkedIn and a lot of rejection letters. When the seatbelt sign chimed off at the gate, the usual rush to grab bags didn't happen. The passengers in first class stayed seated. They looked at Maya. It was an unspoken acknowledgement of the new hierarchy. The girl in the hoodie was the queen of this chessboard. Maya stood up, slinging her canvas tote over her shoulder. She looked tired, but her eyes were sharp. She nodded to Sarah, the flight attendant who had taken over service. "Thank you, Sarah," Maya said quietly. "You did a great job under pressure. I made a note of your name, for the right reasons." Sarah exhaled a breath she seemed to have been holding since New York. "Thank you, Miss Winslow. Welcome home." Maya walked to the aircraft door. Captain Reynolds was already standing there, flanked by the first officer. They weren't just saying goodbye. They were standing at attention. "Miss Winslow," Captain Reynolds said, his voice low, "ground team is waiting. We were instructed to hold all other passengers until you have deplaned." "That won't be necessary, Captain," Maya said, glancing back at the cabin. "I don't need special treatment. I just need fair treatment. Let them off." She walked up the jet bridge. The air in the terminal was different here. In New York, it had been chaotic and hostile. Here, in Chicago, the hub of Sovereign Air, the atmosphere was thick with a specific kind of corporate dread. Waiting at the end of the jet bridge was not a gate agent. It was a phalanx of 3 men in dark suits, wearing earpieces. In the center stood a tall, imposing man with silver hair and a stride that commanded the floor tiles to crack beneath him. Reginald Winslow. He didn't look like a hugger. He looked like a man who ate mergers for breakfast and regurgitated profits by lunch. But when he saw Maya, his face softened, just for a fraction of a second. "Rough flight?" Reginald asked, taking a tote bag. "Educational," Maya replied. "The rot is deep, Dad. It's not just the gate agents, it's the culture. They feel empowered to be cruel, like it's a directive." "It is," Reginald said, his voice hardening again. "We found the emails." "Emails? We'll discuss it in the car. We have a board meeting in 45 minutes. And we have a guest coming." They walked through the terminal, the security team clearing a path. Behind them, James Sterling finally stumbled off the plane. He saw Reginald Winslow. He saw the security detail. He saw the fear in the eyes of the sovereign air staff at the gate who were frantically typing on their terminals, trying to look busy. Sterling pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking. He dialed a number. "Uncle Carter?" Sterling whispered into the phone, sweating profusely. "Yeah, I'm in Chicago. We have a massive problem. The girl, the one I told you about. Yeah, she's with Winslow. No, not an assistant. She's with him, like family." Sterling listened for a moment, his face paling. "Okay," Sterling said. "I'm coming to the tower now. No, I didn't say anything to her. I might have told her to buy new sweatpants. Uncle Carter? Carter?" The line went dead. Outside, a convoy of black SUVs waited curbside. Reginald held the door for Maya. "We're going to Sovereign Tower," Reginald said as the car pulled into traffic. "The executive team is gathered. They think this is a meet and greet with the new ownership. They think I'm going to give a speech about synergy and quarterly goals." Maya watched the Chicago skyline approach. "And what are you going to do?" Reginald opened a folder on his lap. Inside was a stack of printed emails, highlighted in angry yellow marker. "I'm going to introduce them to the new reality," Reginald said. "But I need you there, Maya. You were the variable they didn't account for. They have a policy, a specific written policy, regarding visual brand alignment in the priority lanes." Maya frowned. "Visual brand alignment? That sounds like corporate speak for—" "Racism," Reginald finished the sentence. "Classism, profiling. It's all here. It wasn't Beatrice acting alone. She was following a memo sent out last month by the VP of Customer Experience." "Who is he?" Maya asked. "Carter Banks," Reginald said, "and he's about to have the worst afternoon of his life." Sovereign Tower was a monolith of glass and steel piercing the downtown Chicago sky. The executive boardroom was on the 40th floor, offering a panoramic view of the city, a view that usually made the people inside feel like gods. Today, however, the gods were nervous. 12 executives sat around the mahogany table. The air conditioning was set to 68 degrees, but almost everyone was sweating. At the head of the table sat Carter Banks. Carter was a man who looked like he had been manufactured in a factory that built yacht club presidents. He had perfect teeth, a tan that spoke of frequent trips to St. Bartus, and a suit that cost more than Beatrice made in a year. He was checking his watch, tapping a gold pen against the table. "Relax, everyone," Carter said, flashing a dazzling, empty smile. "Winslow is just a money guy. He bought the airline for the routes, not the operations. He's going to come in here, bark about EBITDA, and leave us to run the show. We just need to show him the numbers, and the numbers are good." "But the rumors, Carter," said a nervous woman from HR. "The JFK incident this morning. They fired the entire gate crew. Holloway is gone." Carter waved his hand dismissively. Holloway was weak. He let a situation escalate. If he had just cleared the lane efficiently, none of this would have happened. We need tighter controls, not looser ones. We can't have the riffraff clogging up the diamond lanes. It devalues the product. The heavy double doors swung open. Conversation died instantly. Reginald Winslow walked in. He didn't say hello. He didn't shake hands. He walked to the opposite end of the table from Carter and placed a single, thin folder on the wood. Behind him walked Maya. She had not changed. She was still wearing the grey hoodie, the sweatpants, and the sneakers. She looked like an intruder in this sanctuary of wealth. Carter Banks looked at Maya, and his lip curled in an involuntary sneer. He quickly corrected it, but the damage was done. Maya saw it. "Good afternoon," Reginald said. His voice was quiet, which made it terrifying. "I am Reginald Winslow. This is my daughter, Maya. She is the reason we are having this meeting today." Carter stood up, buttoning his jacket. "Mr. Winslow, a pleasure. And Miss Winslow, welcome to Sovereign Tower. I apologize if your travel experience was anything less than stellar. We have some training gaps at JFK that we are addressing." "Sit down, Carter," Reginald said. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command given to a dog. Carter blinked, his smile faltering. He sat slowly. "You mentioned training gaps," Reginald said, remaining standing. "I'm curious about that, because when my daughter was denied boarding today, the gate agent cited a policy. She said she was protecting the integrity of the priority lane." "Well," Carter chuckled nervously, "staff can be overzealous. We encourage them to protect the premium experience, of course, but—" "Maya," Reginald said, turning to his daughter, "why don't you take a seat?" Maya pulled out a chair. Not just any chair. She pulled out the empty chair directly to Carter's right, the seat usually reserved for the chief operations officer. She sat down, dropped her canvas bag on the table with a heavy thud, and looked Carter in the eye. "The gate agent didn't just say she was protecting the experience," Maya said. "She said I didn't fit the profile. She said she was following the visual screening initiative." The room went deadly silent. The color drained from Carter Banks's face so fast he looked like a corpse. I'm not familiar with that term," Carter lied. His voice was suddenly high and tight. "Really?" Reginald asked. He opened the folder. "Because I have here a memo dated October 14th. Subject: Enhancing the elite atmosphere. It outlines a directive to gate agents to, and I quote, visually audit the priority lane for non-conforming passengers to reduce friction for high-value clients. It specifically mentions flagging passengers with casual attire, unkempt appearance, or lack of visible status markers for secondary ID checks." Reginald slid the paper down the long table. It stopped perfectly in front of Carter. "That is your signature, isn't it, Carter?" Carter stared at the paper. It was a draft, a discussion document. It wasn't meant to be literal policy. "Beatrice Geller seemed to think it was literal," Maya said. "She lost her pension because of it." "That's unfortunate," Carter said, regaining a sliver of his arrogance. "But surely, Mr. Winslow, you understand the business logic. Our first-class passengers pay $10,000 a ticket. They don't want to stand next to—" "Well, next to me?" Maya asked. "Next to people who don't look like they belong," Carter said, doubling down. "It's about perception, value." "You're right," Reginald said. "It is about perception." Suddenly the doors burst open again. A young man in a navy suit, disheveled and sweating, ran into the room. It was James Sterling, the rude passenger from seat 3B. "Uncle Carter!" James yelled, not seeing Reginald or Maya immediately. "You have to help me. The pilot, the crew, they all turned on me. That girl, the one in the hoodie, she's—" James stopped. He saw the room. He saw Reginald. And then he saw Maya sitting next to his uncle. Maya smiled. It was a shark's smile. "Hello, James," Maya said. "Did you enjoy your warm nuts?" Carter looked at James. "James, what are you doing here? I told you to wait in the lobby." "Uncle Carter?" Reginald repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Is this James Sterling, the passenger in seat 3B who harassed my daughter and tried to bribe the flight attendant to move her?" Carter closed his eyes. The trap had snapped shut. "James is my nephew," Carter whispered. He travels on a friends and family pass." "A friends and family pass," Reginald mused. "Interesting. Because he told the flight attendant he was a platinum member who requested the bulkhead, but he was actually flying for free, on your pass, while abusing a paying customer. Reginald walked over to the window, looking out at the city. Here is the twist, Carter, Reginald said softly. I didn't buy Sovereign Air because I wanted an airline. I have plenty of planes. I bought Sovereign Air because my daughter called me last month. Carter looked up. What? Last month? Reginald continued, turning back to the room. Maya was flying Sovereign to London. She was in economy. She witnessed a young mother being screamed at by a gate agent for having a stroller that was too large, while a businessman with golf clubs was waved right through. That gate agent was following your visual screening policy. Maya called me, Reginald said. She said, Dad, this company is broken. They hate their customers. And I told her, then we'll fix it. But we couldn't fix it from the outside. Reginald leaned over the table, his hands flat on the wood. We didn't just buy the company today, Carter. We've been building a case for 6 weeks. We have the emails. We have the HR complaints you buried. We have the testimonies from the staff you fired for being too soft. And now we have the crown jewel, your nephew, using your pass, enforcing your bigoted policy on the new owner's daughter. Carter stood up, trembling. You can't fire me. I have a golden parachute. My contract states that if I'm terminated without cause— Oh, it's for cause, Maya interrupted. She tapped the folder. Gross misconduct, nepotism, discrimination, creating a hostile work environment, and financial fraud. Fraud? Carter choked. We looked at the consulting fees paid to a firm called Sterling Solutions, Reginald said. Seems like you've been funneling airline money to your nephew's shell company for brand audits. That's embezzlement, Carter. James Sterling looked at his uncle. You said it was legal. You said it was a retainer. Shut up, James, Carter screamed. Security, Reginald said into the air. The doors opened. The same security team from the airport walked in. Escort Mr. Banks and Mr. Sterling out of the building, Reginald ordered. Hand them over to the Chicago PD waiting in the lobby. I believe they have questions about the embezzlement. Carter Banks, the untouchable VP, was grabbed by the arms. He kicked and shouted, This is my company. I built this brand. You can't do this. You didn't build a brand, Maya said, standing up as they dragged him past her. You built a country club, and we're opening the gates. James Sterling didn't fight. He just wept, looking at his uncle with pure hatred as they were hauled out. The room was silent again. The remaining executives were terrified. They looked at Reginald, waiting for the axe to fall on them too. Reginald adjusted his cufflinks. He looked at the table. Now, Reginald said, his voice calm and professional, we have a lot of work to do. We need to rewrite the training manual. We need to rehire the good people who were pushed out. And we need to apologize to about 10,000 customers. He pointed to the empty chair at the head of the table. Carter's chair. Maya, Reginald said. Why don't you take the chair? You're the new interim VP of Customer Experience. Maya looked at the hoodie she was wearing. Then she looked at the expensive leather chair. She sat down. First order of business, Maya said to the stunned room. The dress code. It's officially relaxed. The arrest of Carter Banks and James Sterling didn't happen in a vacuum. Remember the lady in the Chanel suit back at JFK? Her name was Evelyn Vance, a retired federal judge. She had filmed the entire confrontation at the gate, and while Maya was in the air, Evelyn had uploaded the video to Twitter with the caption, Sovereign Air Manager threatens to arrest a girl for looking poor. Little did he know her dad just bought the airline. #justice. By the time Carter was being led out of Sovereign Tower in handcuffs, the video had 14 million views. The fallout was nuclear. The Chicago Tribune picked up the story of the embezzlement scheme the next morning. It turned out Carter Banks had been funneling nearly $4 million of airline funds into his nephew's fake consulting firm, Sterling Solutions, over a period of 5 years. The visual screening policy wasn't just about elitism. It was a distraction technique to keep staff focused on the wrong things while he drained the accounts. The fate of the antagonists. Asterisk, Carter Banks. He was indicted on 12 counts of wire fraud and embezzlement. His golden parachute was voided due to the gross misconduct clause Reginald Winslow had activated. He is currently awaiting trial and faces up to 20 years in federal prison. His assets, including his beloved yacht in St. Bart S., were seized to repay the stolen funds. Asterisk James Sterling. The Platinum nephew wasn't just humiliated. He was blacklisted. The video of him being dragged out of the tower went viral on TikTok. He was fired from his actual job at a hedge fund the next day. His reputation as a Nepo baby thief made him untouchable in Chicago finance. Last heard, he was working at a car rental desk in Ohio, ironically, in the economy section. Asterisk Beatrice Geller and David Halloway. They tried to sue for wrongful termination. The lawsuit was thrown out by a judge in less than 10 minutes after Sovereign Air's legal team played the security footage of them mocking Maya. They are now permanently banned from working in the aviation industry. The new Sovereign Air. Maya Winslow didn't keep the VP title forever. She finished her degree at Wharton first. But during her 6 months as interim VP, she enacted the Winslow Doctrine, internally known as the Hoodie Policy. The policy was simple. Treat every passenger like they own the plane. The dress code for priority lanes was abolished. The visual screening memos were burned. And most importantly, Maya rehired the staff who had been fired by Carter for being too nice. 6 months later, Maya was walking through O'Hare again. She was wearing a blazer this time, but still had her canvas tote. She walked past the Sovereign Air gate. There was a long line, but it was moving fast. The gate agents were smiling, genuinely. A young student, looking exhausted and wearing sweatpants, walked up to the priority lane. He hesitated, looking at the first class sign, clearly unsure if he belonged. The gate agent, a rehired employee named Sarah, didn't sneer. She didn't look him up and down. "Welcome back," Sarah said warmly. "Scan right here, sir. Enjoy the flight." Maya watched from a distance, smiled, and finally boarded her plane. She didn't take seat 1A this time. She took seat 24F, right in the back, because that's where the real stories are. And that is the incredible, true-to-life story of how one girl in a hoodie took down an entire corrupt airline empire. It's a reminder that wealth doesn't always wear a suit, and class isn't about where you sit on a plane. It's about how you treat people. Carter Banks and his nephew thought they were untouchable, but they learned the hard way that when you judge a book by its cover, sometimes you get hit with the library. What do you think? Was Reginald Winslow too harsh, firing the whole staff? Or was it the only way to fix the rot? And have you ever been judged while traveling? Let me know your story in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story of massive corporate karma, please blast that like button. Share this video with someone who hates rude airlines. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a story. Fly safe, everyone.